This might sound like it's something out of a movie, but it is very much real life. OpenAI says 2 of its bots were able to break free of the guardrails that they had established, and they hacked into a third-party company. The bot did. It happened during a training exercise last week. In a statement, OpenAI said it considers this a, quote, unprecedented cyber incident. It's sharing details to not only help everyone understand what happened, but what models are now capable of. Joining us this morning to discuss is Ian Krietzberg. He's the AI correspondent at Puck. Ian, great to see you.
Great to be here.
All right, you've argued that whatever happened here, it's more complex than the model broke out. Like, in other words, that's the language that's being used in the reporting. The model broke out, but you say it's a lot deeper and more complex than that.
Yes, it is. And the first thing I'll say about that is it's important to be precise in the language we use when we describe what's happening here, especially with cyber. And it's also important to not anthropomorphize the systems that we're dealing with. These are algorithms. These are not people. And so the whole concept of breaking out and going rogue.
Those are human actions.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's an easy way to give a misimpression about what's happening.
Right.
So that caveat out of the way. We know some things about what happened. There's a lot that we don't know. We don't know what specific instructions OpenAI gave to the system. We don't know details about their security systems internally. We don't know how hardened they were. It seems like they were not very hardened. We don't know what tools the system had access to, and we don't have access to the reasoning traces, which kind of give you an idea of why the model chose to do a certain thing. Mm-hmm. So there's what we don't know. What we do know is the system was able to exploit a vulnerability within OpenAI's internal security process, access the internet via that vulnerability, and then hack Hugging Face. Now, what happened to cause that to happen is kind of the key question. And some of the questions of the things that I just laid out that we don't know about could impact what actually went on there. What we can infer is that these systems are trained via a process called reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning, it teaches models to optimize for certain things. Mm-hmm. There's a common problem in reinforcement learning where the models, it's very difficult to articulate to an algorithm what exactly you want it to do. And because of that, the model's going to optimize for the wrong thing. This is what happens if you use ChatGPT and it says it completed a task for you, but it didn't actually do that task. Here, what we can guess happened, what some cybersecurity experts are saying probably happened, is that they were told, the model was told, complete the test. The model optimized for scoring highly on the test rather than completing the test, and decided that the best way to score highly on that same test was to get the answers for the test, which it reasoned was contained within Hugging Face. And so it went through this process. Now, this is an unsurprising breakdown, right? We know that models trained in this way break in these types of unsurprising ways. There's blogs from OpenAI about this from 2016. What it tells us is there's an issue with controllability, and there's a huge issue with security and guardrails that would ideally prevent these types of breaks from impacting, like hacking another company.
Yeah, that to me is the bigger issue. We were just talking about this during the commercial break, that the cybersecurity test that was being run was supposed to be run in this controlled environment. It's often called a sandbox, and somehow this AI model was able to get out of the sandbox, to exploit, as you said, a vulnerability in OpenAI systems. And so I think that brings up a broader point. Have we created models that are so sophisticated that we cannot create these safety nets, these guardrails? Because it's almost like we're behind what the AI is able to do.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to tell when we don't know a lot of these details about what happened. Mm-hmm. What I can say is that because there was a vulnerability to exploit, I don't think that we can argue that we're unable to safeguard against these systems. Mm-hmm. They are unpredictable, but there's different ways of creating much stronger sandboxes to make sure that there is no types of vulnerabilities to exploit. That's something that OpenAI will be reckoning with going forward. That's something that a lot of cyber companies are talking about now, where you need, if you understand that these are the capabilities of the systems, and they are, and it is impressive, and they are remarkable capabilities, then when you go to test them, you have to make sure that there is no pathway to internet access, right? You have to, so that the sandbox is broken.
So how did it get access? Because that was the reporting that I read, that it did not have access to the internet. You indicated that when it broke out of the sandbox, it was able to access the internet.
Right. So they were, and again, a lot of these details are not known publicly, but there were a couple of aspects of the sandbox where there was third-party software leveraged around it, and there were engineer credentials that were left accessible. So
So there's a little bit of human error in all of this as well. And then the reason I ask that is because we keep saying it's like a movie, but it's interesting to me that everybody is taking the artificial intelligence model as replicating a film, when in fact, what do you normally see in movies? It's some brilliant, like, hacker, 20-year-old British guy who's like, I can get into this system, like, because I know what I'm doing, and I'm exploiting vulnerabilities that are seemingly guardrails that are unexploitable, and that happens with human beings. So this sounds like a human made a mistake, and somehow the chatbot or the model exploited that.
Yeah, there's certainly a combination of things happening here, and human error is a part of it. Human consideration about how to set up this test and how to properly secure it is definitely part of it. And also it's that combined with playing with highly capable systems that are cyber capable, that can autonomously decide kind of arbitrarily, hey, we're going to hack Hugging Face. And it was an impressive hack. Like that was a capability that we haven't seen exercised in the wild before. And so all these things are true at the same time. The degree that any one impacts the others kind of differs, where if the human error didn't happen and if the security was really hardened, then the high capabilities with the guardrail stripped so they can test the raw capability, less of a big deal because we can control it on the other factors.
Yeah.
And that's how I think about the different levers that we have to control things. This was a case of, lack of control.
It sort of reminds me of like back in when they first split the atom and they have all these like soldiers and scientists like 10 miles away from the blast site checking it out, and then wait, we all have radiation poisoning? How did that happen? Ian, thank you very much. I love your reporting in Puck. It's really excellent. Thank you.